The screencast will cover relations and functions. And it begins on page 331 of your pre-algebra textbook. And it's from the K-12 curriculum. On your OLS, it is Unit 10, and it covers lessons 10 and 11. So get your note-taking materials ready. And we've got lots of vocabulary that goes along with this lesson. First one is a relation, found right in your title. And relation, you know what it means when you're related to somebody. In math, a correspondence between two sets. So they have something to do with one another. And the two sets that we're talking about would be x values and y values. So in your T-chart, having something like this that shows values for x and y. So you've got the set of x which would be -5, 0, and 6, and then the set of y, which would be 2, 3, and 5. So these two sets have something to do with one another, and as with previous lessons, you know that all of these pairs of numbers that are across from one another are ordered pairs that we would graph on the Cartesian plane. Next vocabulary, we have domain and range. And the domain are the input values, or the first values. So when we talk about domain, we mean the values that are x. And then for the range, those are the second values, or they would be the y. And if you have a difficult time remembering that, just like x and y go in alphabetical order, so do domain and range. So you can always remember which goes with which variable. Domain is x and range is y. Domain input and range the output. So input would be the number you substitute in, and then output is kind of like your answer. So when x is -5, y is 2. When x is -6 or +6, y is 5. So input and output. The definition of a function is a relation that has exactly one output for every input. And here are some examples of T-charts showing values of x and y, the outputs and inputs. And you can tell just by looking at these charts, or they could be written as ordered pairs. And you can tell whether or not this is a function, because if you have any x values that are repeated, then it is not a function. So if we look here at our x's, -1 with 1, 0 with 2, 1 with 3, 2 with 4. So yes, this is a function. In our second example, we look at the x's, and here we can see that we have the number 4 2 times. So this one is not a function. Besides looking at the x and y values, you can also do a vertical line test in the event that you are just looking at the actual graph of some points that have been plotted, and you can do the vertical line test. And remember, vertical, up and down, floor to ceiling. If you would look at your graph and draw a vertical line anywhere, at any point at all, and if more than one point is touched by that vertical line, then it is not a function. And we can kind of see, for instance, if we had something that would graph and look like this. This would be a function because I could draw a vertical line almost anywhere here that you can see, and it only would touch in one point. However, if we would turn that same graph on its side, and if it will go this way, kind of like a big U, then this would not be a function, because if you see, when I draw that green vertical line, it touches in two spots. So this one is a function, and this one is not a function. And that you can tell with the vertical line test. There also is something called function notation. So note, which implies writing. So writing something in function form. We are used to seeing equations, for instance, if we write them in slope-intercept form, maybe y equals 2x plus 4. To write this in function notation is not much of a change at all. You simply say, do this. And this means f of x, or the function of x, is 2x plus 4. And it means that you are plugging in your x value in order to get the y value, which is showing the function of x. So if x is 0, that's always one of the easiest ones to plug in. 2 times 0 is 0, plus 4 is 4. If x was 1, 2 times 1 is 2, plus 4 is 6. If x was negative 1, 2 times negative 1 is negative 2, plus 4 is 2. So f of x sits in the same spot that the y does, and it's more or less just showing action, that you're actually plugging in the value of x, kind of like an input-output machine, and seeing what happens. So input with the x, and then the output over here with the y, or it might even say f of x up here. So don't let that confuse you when you see it written differently. It means the same thing. So with that, you should be ready to look at functions and relations. Remembering again, just like x and y are alphabetical order, domain and range go in alphabetical order. And if you have a repeat in the domain or the x column, then it is not a function. And if you envision graphing that, you can see why. So if I would go over 1 and up 2, over 1 and up 1, over 1 and up 3, I'm getting points stacked up on top of each other, which means it would fail the vertical line test. So good luck with that, functions and relations.